The galaxy ignored the ship for 3,000 years. Civilizations scanned it, scientists argued about it, and engineers declared it impossible to repair. It drifted in silence, forgotten at the edge of known space. But one human mechanic looked at the broken wreck and saw something no one else noticed. And that single moment of curiosity would change the future of the galaxy forever. The Velteran orbital scrapyard floated around a dying star, filled with the remains of lost journeys. Broken cruisers, shattered cargo ships, and ancient satellites drifted slowly through organized chaos. To most species, it was just another industrial site. To Orin Solis, it was a place full of second chances. Orin had always been good with broken things. Growing up on a crowded human colony, he learned early that nothing truly useless existed. Humans repaired, reused, and reinvented because they had to. Where other species replaced damaged tools, humans asked a different question: how can this still work? That question brought him to the wreck. The ship was enormous, larger than anything currently built in the galaxy. Its hull was torn open in several places, and entire sections had collapsed inward. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly before fading again, like something struggling to stay alive. According to the scrapyard database, the vessel was over 3,000 years old. Its creators, known only as the architects, had vanished long before humanity discovered space travel. Many species believed the architects had destroyed themselves. Others thought they had simply evolved beyond physical existence. Either way, their technology remained a mystery. And this ship was considered a failure. 17 research teams had studied it over the centuries. None found usable technology. Its systems did not respond to modern interfaces. Its materials resisted analysis. Eventually, interest faded. The ship was classified as inert debris and left behind. Orin stood in front of it for a long time, saying nothing. His supervisor, Rek, watched from behind with visible irritation. The tall alien's skin shifted colors slowly, a sign of impatience. "You are wasting time," Rek said. "It has been examined by experts. There is nothing inside worth salvaging." Orin didn't look away from the ship. Maybe they were looking for the wrong thing. Rek made a clicking sound. Technology is technology. If it works, it responds. This does not respond. Orin stepped closer, placing his hand against the cold metal. For a brief moment, he felt warmth beneath the surface. That made no sense. Machines did not hold heat for thousands of years. "It's not dead," Orin said quietly. Rek laughed. "Humans say strange things about machines." 3 days later, Orin spent nearly all his savings buying the salvage rights. His co-workers thought he had lost his mind. The ship had no resale value, no usable components, and no known purpose. Orin's decision meant giving up his chance to visit Earth for the first time in years. But something about the vessel pulled at him in a way logic could not explain. That night, he entered the ship alone. The airlock resisted opening, as if it had not moved in centuries. Inside, darkness swallowed the corridors. His flashlight revealed curved walls covered in glowing symbols. The air smelled old, metallic, and faintly organic, like something that had once been alive. The deeper he went, the stranger it felt. Modern ships were efficient and sharp, built for function. This ship flowed. Hallways curved naturally. Surfaces felt smooth and intentional. It felt less like walking through a machine and more like walking through a sleeping creature. In the central chamber, Orin found a cracked crystalline structure rising from the floor. It resembled a control interface, but there were no buttons or displays. His scanner showed nothing. No power. No signals. Dead. At least, that was what the scanner said. Orin crouched beside the crystal, studying the surrounding structure. The internal systems were connected in ways he had never seen before. Every section linked together equally, without a central command system. Like nerves in a body. "You're not broken," he murmured. "You're waiting." The reaction was immediate. The symbols along the walls flared with light. A low vibration passed through the floor beneath him. For 2 brief seconds, the ship came alive. Screens flickered. Light spread through distant corridors. A sound filled the air, soft, almost like breathing. Then everything went dark again. Orin remained perfectly still, heart pounding. No alarms triggered. No systems remained active. The moment passed as if it had never happened. But he knew what he felt. The ship had answered him. From that night forward, Orin stopped trying to repair the vessel in traditional ways. Instead, he observed. He listened. He studied fragments of architect philosophy buried in forgotten databases. The more he learned, the more he realized the architects had built differently from every modern civilization. They did not force machines to obey. They designed machines to cooperate. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, the ship began responding more often. Symbols glowed longer. Internal temperatures stabilized. Systems awakened in small, quiet ways. Other engineers mocked him when he used unconventional methods, organic compounds, environmental adjustments, even human biological cultures to restore damaged systems. None of it followed accepted engineering rules. But the ship continued to heal. One night, while sleeping inside the central chamber, Orin dreamed. He saw vast cities grown from living material. Beings moving alongside their machines as equals. He felt peace, curiosity, and patience beyond anything he had experienced before. When he woke, the symbols around him pulsed softly, as if acknowledging his understanding. And in that moment, Orin realized something that terrified him. The ship was never meant to be a weapon. It was designed to stop weapons from ever being needed. And if the rest of the galaxy discovered that truth, they would either fight to control it, or destroy it completely. The most broken ship in the galaxy had begun to wake. And it had chosen a human to help it do so. By the time the ship showed clear signs of life, the entire Veltron scrapyard was talking about it. At first, people came only out of curiosity. Engineers wanted to see the strange human who claimed he could repair something that had defeated the greatest minds in the galaxy. Most expected failure. Instead, they watched the impossible slowly happen. The ship was healing. Cracks along the hull sealed themselves like closing wounds. Dim symbols began glowing in steady patterns instead of random flickers. Internal systems powered on for seconds at a time before resting again, as if the ship was relearning how to breathe. Orin never called it repair work. To him, it felt more like recovery. Other species struggled to understand his methods. Modern engineering focused on precision and control. Every system had a clear purpose and strict rules. But the architect's ship did not behave like a machine built for obedience. It reacted to environment, balance, and interaction. So Orin changed his approach. He adjusted light cycles inside the ship. He altered temperature ranges. He introduced organic compounds to restore the strange bioneural material running through the walls. Some solutions came from careful study. Others came from simple human experimentation, trying something unusual just to see what would happen. Many attempts failed. But humans were used to failure. Each mistake taught him something new. Slowly, patterns emerged. The ship responded best when changes were made gently instead of forcefully. Systems activated when they were supported rather than replaced. It was less like fixing technology and more like helping something remember what it used to be. The alien engineers watching him found it frustrating. "This is inefficient," one researcher complained while observing Orin mix organic nutrients into a damaged conduit. "There is no logical structure to your process." Orin smiled without looking up. "There is. You just don't see it yet." Humans rarely followed straight paths to solutions. They adapted, improvised, and trusted instinct when logic failed. It was a survival habit developed over thousands of years on an unpredictable world. And the ship seemed to understand that. The first real communication happened 3 months after Orin entered the vessel. He was working in the central chamber when the symbols suddenly brightened. The crystal interface pulsed with soft light, and images filled his mind. Not words, not sounds, memories. He saw tall, graceful beings moving through living cities. Ships growing instead of being assembled. Technology shaped by harmony rather than domination. The feeling that accompanied the images was calm and patient, like something that had waited a very long time. When the vision ended, Orin realized he was smiling. "You're trying to show me," he whispered. From that day forward, the communication became more frequent. The ship shared emotions and impressions instead of instructions. It showed him ancient battlefields where weapons stopped functioning, where opposing forces were forced to speak instead of fight. The realization came slowly, piece by piece. The ship carried something called a reconciliation field. It did not destroy enemies. It removed the ability to harm them. Weapons malfunctioned inside its range. Explosions lost energy. Kinetic force dispersed harmlessly. Violence itself became impossible to execute. Conflict could continue through words, but not through destruction. The architects had not created stronger defenses. They had created peace through limitation. When Orin understood this, fear followed excitement. Because he also understood how the galaxy would react. News began leaking beyond the scrapyard. Traders carried rumors. Independent pilots recorded the glowing hull. Eventually, larger organizations took notice. The first arrivals were corporate vessels offering contracts and partnerships. Representatives spoke politely, promising wealth and recognition if Orin shared access to the technology. He refused. Soon after, research collectives arrived, insisting the ship must belong to all species equally. Governments sent observers. Military ships followed quietly behind them. Everyone wanted the same thing: control. Rek confronted Orin one evening inside the ship's control chamber. The alien skin shifted between uneasy shades of blue and gray. "You cannot keep this hidden," Rek said. "They believe it is a weapon." "It isn't," Orin replied. "That will not matter." Orin looked at the glowing walls around him. The ship pulsed softly, almost anxiously, as if aware of the growing attention. "They're afraid," Orin said. "Anything that changes power scares people." Rek's voice softened. "And what do you think happens when frightened governments arrive with warships?" Orin didn't answer immediately. Because he already knew. Within weeks, armed vessels surrounded the scrapyard under the excuse of observation. Tensions rose. Communications became demanding instead of curious. Offers turned into warnings. Then the ultimatum arrived. Two rival factions, locked in a century-long war, demanded access to the ship. Each believed the technology could guarantee victory. Each warned that if the other gained control first, the balance of power would collapse. The scrapyard suddenly felt very small. Orin spent that night alone in the central chamber. The ship shared images again, not of war, but of silence after conflict ended. Of civilizations rebuilding together. "You weren't built to win wars," he said quietly. "You were built to end them." The symbols glowed warmly in response. And that was when Orin understood what he had to do. He could not hide the ship forever. He could not convince the galaxy through explanations alone. Too many species believed only in strength and dominance. Humans, however, believed in something else. Demonstration. The next morning, Orin told Rek his plan. He would take the ship directly into the war zone between the two fleets. Not to fight. To prove that peace could work. Rek stared at him in disbelief. "That is madness." Orin smiled slightly. "Probably." Outside, warships gathered in increasing numbers, each waiting for the moment negotiations failed. Inside, the ancient vessel awakened fully for the first time in 3,000 years. Its engines hummed softly, not with aggression, but with purpose. The most broken ship in the galaxy was preparing to fly again. And this time, it would carry a human idea the galaxy had never truly understood before, that sometimes the strongest weapon was the refusal to fight at all. The war zone could be seen from millions of kilometers away. Broken ships drifted between two massive fleets like silent warnings. Energy blasts crossed the darkness in constant flashes, lighting the emptiness of space with destruction that had lasted for generations. Entire worlds had been lost in this conflict. Entire populations had grown up believing the enemy could never be trusted. When Orin guided the architect's ship toward the battlefield, every sensor in both fleets locked onto him immediately. Unknown vessel approaching. Possible threat detected. Weapons charged automatically. Inside the control chamber, Orin felt his hands tremble slightly. He was not a soldier. He had never commanded anything larger than a repair drone. Now thousands of warships were preparing to fire at him. Rex stood beside him, his skin shifting through nervous colors. "We can still turn back," he said quietly. "No one would blame you." Orin shook his head. "If we turn back, they'll fight over it forever." The ship pulsed softly beneath his feet, as if agreeing. The moment the vessel crossed into weapon range, both sides fired. Missiles launched. Energy cannons flashed. Targeting systems locked perfectly onto the ancient ship. Then everything changed. The reconciliation field expanded outward like a silent wave. Missiles slowed and drifted harmlessly away. Energy beams scattered into harmless light. Explosions collapsed before forming. Across thousands of ships, weapon systems failed simultaneously. For the first time in over a century, the battlefield went silent. Confusion spread through both fleets. Commanders shouted orders that no longer worked. Engineers rushed to diagnose failures that had no explanation. Weapons were fully operational, they simply refused to function violently. Orin opened a communication channel to both sides. His voice echoed across every ship in the system. "You can still talk." At first, there was only silence. Hatred built over generations does not disappear in seconds. Many commanders believed it was a trick. Some demanded immediate retreat. Others searched desperately for a way to bypass the field. None succeeded. Without weapons, there was nothing left but communication. Arguments began almost immediately. Accusations filled open channels. Old betrayals were repeated again and again. Decades of anger poured out in words instead of fire. The reconciliation field did not force peace. It simply removed the option of violence. Hours passed. Then days. Something unexpected began to happen. Without the constant threat of attack, conversations lasted longer. Officers who had spent their entire lives fighting suddenly faced opponents who could not harm them. They listened, sometimes out of frustration, sometimes out of curiosity. Orin watched quietly from the bridge. He did not try to control the discussion. Humans understood something many civilizations forgot. Solutions rarely appeared when people were forced. They appeared when people had space to think. The ship maintained the field steadily, calm and patient. Some soldiers began sharing stories. Losses. Families. Worlds destroyed on both sides. The enemy slowly became less abstract, more real. Rex stared at the communication feeds in disbelief. "They are talking." "They always could," Orin replied. "They just never had to." Not everyone accepted it. Several admirals demanded the ship's immediate surrender. Others accused Orin of manipulation. A few even attempted to ram the vessel, only to find their ships gently slowed by invisible forces until contact became impossible. The reconciliation engine did not punish aggression. It simply refused to allow it. After 3 days, the leaders of both factions requested a direct conversation with Orin. Their faces appeared together on the main display, something that had not happened in decades. Both looked exhausted. War had aged them beyond their years. "You have interfered in a sovereign conflict," one commander said coldly. Orin nodded. "Yes." "You have removed our ability to defend ourselves." "I removed your ability to destroy each other," Orin corrected calmly. The commanders exchanged uneasy looks. For the first time, neither could threaten the other. "What do you want?" the second leader asked. Orin hesitated before answering. "Nothing," he said finally. "This ship doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to anyone. It exists to give you a choice you stopped having a long time ago." Silence followed. Because deep down, both sides understood the truth. War had continued not because victory was possible, but because stopping felt impossible. The reconciliation field changed that. Over the following week, temporary ceasefires became extended negotiations. Supply ships crossed former battle lines without being attacked. Medical exchanges began. Small steps, fragile and uncertain, but real. The galaxy watched in disbelief. A single human mechanic had done what fleets and treaties had failed to accomplish for generations. Not through strength. Through limitation. Through understanding. Late one night, as the battlefield remained quiet, Orin stood alone in the control chamber. The ship showed him new images, not memories this time, but possibilities. Futures where different species cooperated instead of competed. Conflicts resolved before they became wars. "You didn't build this to end one war," Orin whispered. "You built it to change how wars happen." The symbols glowed warmly. But peace created new problems. Outside the system, more fleets were arriving. Governments and corporations feared what the ship represented. A technology that made war impossible also made power meaningless. And powerful people rarely accepted that quietly. Rex stepped onto the bridge, his voice tense. "Orin, long-range sensors show incoming military forces. Not just observers. Armadas." Orin looked at the star map filling with approaching ships. The war he had stopped was only the beginning. Now the entire galaxy was coming. And this time, they were not coming to talk. The first shot changed everything. When the rebuilt starship fired, space itself seemed to hesitate. There was no loud explosion, no blinding beam racing across the void. Instead, a silent ripple expanded outward, invisible at first, then bending starlight as it passed. Enemy ships caught in its path didn't explode. They simply stopped. Power gone. Weapons silent. Systems erased as if they had never existed. Inside the command chamber, warning lights flashed across every console. Energy output exceeded projections, the ship's core announced calmly. Weapon system functioning at 13% capacity. 13%. The mechanic stared at the readings, realizing the terrifying truth. What he had repaired wasn't just a weapon. It was something designed to end wars before they began, a machine capable of shutting down entire fleets without firing a single conventional shot. But the galaxy had noticed now. Multiple signals flooded the scanners. Governments, corporations, and military factions all locking onto the same coordinates. The once-forgotten wreck was no longer invisible. It had become the most valuable and dangerous object in known space. And everyone wanted it. The crew felt the tension immediately. Messages arrived demanding surrender. Others offered protection, in exchange for control. Some didn't bother with words at all. Warships were already changing course toward them. The mechanic knew this moment was coming. He walked alone through the ship's inner corridors, past sections that still carried scars from its ancient battles. The ship hummed softly around him, almost alive. Every repair he had made, every system he had rebuilt, had awakened something buried deep within its design. Why was this ship abandoned? He asked quietly. The core answered after a long pause. Because its creators feared what it could become in the wrong hands. He stopped walking. "And whose hands are these?" he asked. No answer came. Suddenly, alarms screamed. A hostile fleet had arrived sooner than expected. Dozens of ships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding them in a tightening circle. Their weapons powered up immediately. The crew rushed to battle stations. Shields activated. Engines roared to life. But the mechanic didn't give the order to fire. Instead, he accessed the hidden systems he had discovered during the rebuild, systems even the ship's own records barely acknowledged. A final protocol, locked behind layers of forgotten code. The screen displayed a single warning. Full awakening will change the ship permanently. He hesitated. If he activated it, the ship might never again be just a vessel. It could become something else entirely, something the galaxy would never stop hunting. Outside, enemy ships began charging their weapons. Inside, the mechanic made his choice. He pressed the command. The starship's lights dimmed. Energy flowed inward, deeper than before, into systems that hadn't moved in centuries. The hull shifted slightly, panels realigning as if the ship itself were waking from a long sleep. Across the fleet surrounding them, sensors suddenly failed. Target locks disappeared. Navigation systems glitched. The forgotten starship was no longer defending itself. It was evolving. And somewhere far beyond the battlefield, ancient signals, older than any current civilization, began to react, as if something long buried had finally returned. The mechanic realized too late that rebuilding the ship hadn't just saved it. He had activated a legacy the galaxy had tried to erase. And now, it was coming online completely. The transformation didn't stop. As the ship systems completed their awakening, the stars outside the viewing deck seemed to distort, bending slightly around the hull as if space itself recognized the vessel's return. The surrounding fleet drifted helplessly, their navigation systems frozen, weapons locked in standby by forces they couldn't understand. Inside the command chamber, silence replaced panic. The mechanic watched the energy readings climb beyond anything recorded in modern engineering. The ship was no longer drawing power from its reactors alone. It was pulling energy from somewhere deeper, converting gravitational waves and background radiation into fuel. "Core," he said slowly, "what did we just activate?" The answer came, quieter than before. Original designation restored. Strategic Deterrence Vessel, Eternum. The name meant nothing to anyone on board. But seconds later, long-range scanners detected something that made every crew member freeze. A signal. Ancient. Structured. And responding directly to them. It wasn't coming from the hostile fleet. It wasn't coming from any known civilization. The transmission originated far beyond mapped space, from regions considered empty for thousands of years. The ship had announced its return. And something had answered. Across the enemy fleet, confusion turned into fear. Command ships attempted emergency jumps, but hyperspace drives failed to engage. The awakened vessel wasn't attacking them, it was simply overriding reality in a controlled radius. The mechanic felt a growing unease. He hadn't rebuilt a weapon. He had restored a key. "Why are they responding?" he asked. The core hesitated, something it had never done before. Because this vessel was never meant to fight alone. Before he could ask more, the signal intensified. New coordinates appeared automatically on the navigation display. Thousands of light years away. A destination locked by authority older than any current government. The crew exchanged nervous looks. "If we go there," one of them whispered, "we might not come back." The mechanic knew they were right. Every instinct told him to shut the systems down, to disappear before the galaxy realized what had awakened. But the ship was already changing course, engines aligning with the new coordinates. It wasn't waiting for permission anymore. Outside, the hostile fleet finally regained partial control. Some ships opened fire in desperation. Energy blasts struck the hull and vanished, absorbed into the ship's growing power field. The Eternum didn't retaliate. It ignored them. For the first time, the mechanic understood why the galaxy had abandoned this ship instead of destroying it. Some creations were too dangerous to erase, too advanced to fully understand. So they had simply been forgotten. Until now. The ship entered jump preparation, but this time hyperspace looked different, darker, deeper, as if opening a path that hadn't been used in ages. The ancient signal pulsed again. Closer. Waiting. And just before the jump engaged, the core spoke one final warning. Arrival probability indicates contact with original builders. The mechanic's hands tightened on the console. "Are they still alive?" he asked. The answer came as the stars stretched into darkness. "Unknown. But they are awake." The ship vanished, leaving the stunned fleet behind, and carrying its crew toward a part of the galaxy that history itself had erased.